for being here.
No, I appreciate you guys welcoming me on. Thanks for having me.
So jump in if I get this wrong, Ravi. So Ravi is a real estate buyer's agent, YouTuber, and NFT collector. Has over 30,000 subscribers on YouTube. His own Patreon group, and creates content around investing in crypto, property, and of course NFTs. Is that right?
I think you nailed it, mate. You nailed it. There's a few things there.
Oh, there is a few things there. So look, welcome to the show. And just to go broad and big straight away, feel free to answer this however you like. But how did you get into crypto?
It's a good question. I probably had the worst possible start to crypto anyone could have had. I hear, we go into Christmas in 2017. I've never heard about Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. And I'm sitting there and my brother goes, have you heard about Bitcoin? People are making some ridiculous money. And I'm someone who's very quick on execution. So sometimes it's my downfall because I don't do enough research and I just jump in. And literally within a week, I signed up with CoinSpot, bought a bunch of altcoins because I felt like Bitcoin already had its run. And it felt great for a few days. And then it absolutely melted faces on the way down. And so I got wrecked.
You know what? We came in the exact
same
time.
Term.
That's the same time, exactly the same time. Yeah, like literally Christmas that year. It was me too. And then what happened after that.
Did you end up actually selling though?
A little bit I did. Look, my story's a bit different. Okay. I went head first in as well. And then obviously we know what happened in 2018. You only lose if you sell. And yeah, I did sell
Correct.
A lot, but yeah. Okay. So you went head first. So you're gung ho. And did you sell? What did you hold on to? And what did you buy?
No, I didn't sell. Thankfully, at the time, I bought some Cardano. I did buy some XRP at the top as well, because apparently that was the biggest thing at the time.
Tough.
And I bought some Ethereum. Not enough, but just some. And it just kept going down, further down. And I don't know what made me think at that point, after, my portfolio has dropped by 60 or 70%, that I should probably go into a self-managed super fund and then put the rest of my money in there. At that time. So I ended up doing that as well at that time.
We are literally parallel. We are living parallel lives.
Oh, you did the same thing?
This is exactly what we did in the middle of, this would have been 2018, yes?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Around June, July, August time, I was getting in with my super.
Wow. That is risk on.
That is risk on. But obviously you saw something there. Obviously. And were you in property at that time, Ravi? Is that when you were in the property industry?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've probably been in property for about 8 or 9 years. So I started when I was like 21, 22. And so for me, I had seen the sort of gains and the growth I could get from property. But when I saw with crypto, obviously it was the initial FOMO and phase was I can just make quick money. But once I got wrecked and everyone sort of left the space is when I started going, hey, there might be something here apart from just making money. And that's when I started deep diving in. Is that a similar thing for you guys?
100%.
So obviously you got wrecked. And I think it's sort of the rite of passage is you FOMO in, you get wrecked, and then there's like a second phase.
Yeah.
When did your second phase start? Was it when you put your superannuation in, or was it like DeFi? Was it NFTs? What was like the second? And you're like, okay, this has some legs.
Yeah, well, I think with super, it only happened 6 months later, and all the influencers left the space, and at that point, I didn't even have YouTube on the cards for myself. So I ended up putting my super in. That ended up dropping another 20, 30% as well, which wasn't a great feeling, but I never sold. And then from there, I sort of thought to myself, maybe it's just best I stick to property because that's all I know. And so I stayed in property for a while. And then I think it was around end of 2020 when, again, a lot of people started talking, but I didn't want to make the same mistake this time. So I started really educating myself. And that's probably been the second wind, start of 2021. I started going heavier. And obviously, at that time, I was making a lot less than what I make now. So I was able to make, greater inroads at that time.
So
can I want to go back a little bit further because I know that you've done really well with your NFTs and where you've gone from this now, but I'm really intrigued about the fact that you did 6 months later in what was the start of a bear market, put your super in there and you went hard and And Craig's just said kind of what was that second coming for you, but you've done that when things were still going down. So there must have been something there. You must have seen the opportunity. So what was it? Like what you've seen the gains, but then the gains have gone down. So there must have been something that tweaked when you said that you're someone that jumps in head first, but you're obviously someone that does your research as well. So kind of, can you remember what pinpointed you? Can you remember what kind of piqued your interests to made you realize that there was an opportunity here?
Yeah, it was essentially going in and understanding what Bitcoin was. Or is, how it got created and why it got created. And at that point, I thought, okay, maybe I've missed the boat on Bitcoin. I don't know. But what are the other things doing in the space? Like, what are the other coins and, projects promising? And what I realized was a lot of it was just speculation on a future value, right? That we're promising we can do X, Y, and Z in the future, and that's what you're betting on right now. And what I realized was, with consumer behavior, people love the hype. And then it's, sell the rumor, buy the rumor, sell the news, right? And it sort of felt like these projects had huge promises, but they weren't actually going to deliver anything for a few years. And with my super, I probably had about $24,000 at the time in my super. And I realized that if I do everything well with property outside in my personal name and whatnot, I won't need super later on. So I can afford to take the risk with that money.
And it's long term. You weren't going to touch it for 40 years anyway, whatever it might be. So, yeah.
Exactly.
Okay,
so
then.
You sort of did the opposite to what a lot of people like my age do. Like we see crypto as a way to eventually afford property, where you've done the property and then you've come back to crypto. So like, can you talk a little bit about that? Like what drove you, you've obviously got a great confidence in property, your stuff, obviously. What made you want to dive deep into crypto?
Yeah, it's a good question, man. Because that's exactly what I see right now is anyone, 20, 30, 40, they're all going, well, property seems to be difficult. Maybe if I can make a quick 3x or 4x in crypto, I can maybe buy a property. And for me, I actually like having the foundation as something quite stable, being real estate. And so despite the fact that I'll go out and buy NFTs and buy crypto now, I only have the confidence to do that, knowing that it could all disappear for whatever reason, but I still have the real estate, which is the traditional stuff working in the background. So as much as I'm risk on and a bit of a degen when it comes to NFTs, I won't be doing that move until I've got a foundation.
Yeah. So do you sort of see crypto as a way to, build up, take risk? So you see property as a way to take the risk off. You make some money, you go into property, and then you just do it that way. Is that?
Yeah, correct. So it's almost like, that whole idea that people, trade out some of these smaller altcoins, speculative altcoins, and then they try and take the profits back into Bitcoin or Ethereum, because those, honestly, like in my opinion, are the only ones that I can hand on heart say they're probably going to be around in 5 years. The rest of them, I'm not sure. And so at the moment, while I'm not sure, I can still speculate, make some gains, but I don't think, betting 100% of my funds into something so speculative is worth it. And that's why I try and have the real estate stuff, which is the traditional, set, forget, works in the background, keep building the wealth there. But with crypto and NFTs, I can multiply it and accelerate very quickly.
And that's a really good point you've just made there, flipping back into Ethereum and Bitcoin, because I remember when Bitcoin had the second run up, Tracey, I think we were friends at the time when Bitcoin was back at all-time highs, and everyone was sort of stuck in altcoins saying, oh, I'm up in USD, but like you have less Bitcoin. Like if you just dollar cost average into Bitcoin, you probably would have been better off. And like people sometimes forget when Bitcoin goes on a run or Ethereum goes on a run, everything else does not outperform.
It's like very cyclic.
Yeah. So that's a really good point, by speculating, but like just focusing on building that Ethereum Bitcoin stash.
And looking at advice for young people coming into the market, Ravi, we touched on this before, where it's a little bit generational, because for my generation, it was you finished your studies, you saved for a house, and you purchased your house. Where now, to do that, you need, at least $500,000, if not more, and you're priced out of the market. It's really hard. We're kind of squeezed out. So Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are an opportunity for the new generation to get ahead. So what's your advice for those people? How do they go about potentially doing that through this space?
Yeah, I think, education is obviously there, and there's so much information, there's probably too much now at this point. So there's always a counter argument to what people are thinking is the best idea and whatnot. I think one of the main things that I've learned is you can be a technical analysis genius, but you will never know what's going to happen in the market. So don't pretend like you do. Yeah. And so I think I love the fact that if you've got multiple little buckets where you're dollar cost averaging into, yes, Bitcoin, Ethereum, you got the same sort of thing with other asset classes as well. I think that is probably a good starting point, but I would still say build the foundation with something that's a bit safer, in quotation marks. And nothing's really safe. Everything's got risks. But with the volatility that crypto brings, I think a lot of young people that are starting out can't weather that storm, which means they ultimately sell at the wrong time, buy at the wrong time. Whereas something where it's a bit more, stable with your real estate, you're not able to actually see the value of that real estate every single day anyway. You can't sell it immediately. And that is what I think allows for that asset to keep growing, especially because it also serves the basic need of shelter as well.
And you also shelter yourself from emotion selling too quickly like you can with crypto.
It is an emotional ride, that's for sure. And we talk about, properties, bricks and mortar. You can see it there. It's a tangible. But with crypto in this space, as people like to point out, it's not backed by anything. It's not there. What do you see as the risks and how can we navigate around these risks? And I talk about risks aside from the volatility. We know why the volatility is there and we understand that volatility now. But what other risks do you see posing this space moving forward?
Well, I think a big one is regulation. So people obviously don't know what that could mean for a lot of people. If countries start banning it, we've seen plenty of countries ban it and then unban it and then ban it again. So I think regulation is going to give a little bit more clarity around what the next phase of this looks like. I'm definitely not in the camp of conspiracy theories and people trying to control us. I don't spend any time on that sort of stuff. But I think the reality of regulation coming into the space is going to happen. And I think it's a positive if we look at it in that light, because it introduces a little bit of, it introduces confidence into the space, which is what we need for this to be actually mainstream. I think the other part to, when we look at risks, especially when it comes to crypto, you're looking at cold wallets, seed phrases, holding these things yourself. I think the lack of accountability in general is unbelievable, where people don't want to take the ownership for their own mistakes. So imagine having Bitcoin and then losing your own wallet. Who are they going to blame? So I think banks have a huge play here. They're going to be going, let's keep your wallets, pay us a fee. And that's essentially why people keep money in the bank and not, in their own name somewhere else.
Yeah, I agree.
You've ticked something off my bucket list. You own a Bored Ape Yacht Club NFT, and it is of a Bored Ape. He's got the black shirt on, just like what you're wearing. His eyes are out of his head. Now I don't
be after hours.
Look, what we know the price of these Bored Apes right now. They're like over 100 ETH. Why did you spend so much on a Bored Ape NFT? What do you see? Where do you see it going? Why did you do it? Tell me about your thought process here.
Talk us through it.
Yeah, obviously I was very, very scared when I did it. I'm so glad I captured that moment on like a YouTube video, because I'm always going to remember that moment. Yeah. That, when I told my mum that I spent that much on a monkey, she was like, what does the monkey do?
Is it a real monkey? Really, Ravi, did you buy a real monkey?
I've always actually wanted a pet monkey, and so this was the perfect way to get one. But to be honest, like in terms of being in the space for NFTs, I guess a bit of context, I sort of entered the space in August last year, so 2021. I got introduced to Gary V's NFT when it was minting, but I never got in because I was like, I don't know what MetaMask is. I don't want to learn about this. This is silly. Sounds silly.
Everyone's got those stories. Everyone's got those stories.
Missed out on that. And then 2 months later, again, one of my friends was like, dude, you need to check out NFTs. And I was like, okay, let me check it out. And when I was starting to check it out, on day one, I came across Bored Apes, and they were at 7 ETH. And I was like, I'm not spending 7 ETH on a picture of a monkey. Like, it's not going to happen.
I remember seeing it at that price as well.
Yep. And lazy lions, I remember,
And it's crazy, right? At that point, 7 ETH sounds like such a huge amount, especially if you've been in the space for less than 24 hours. And then I saw it jump up to like 13 ETH by the end of the week. And I was like, I'm definitely not buying it now.
Nah, it's done. It's cooked. It's over.
Correct. And you've always got taught, like with crypto, everything that moves up really quickly has to correct. And again, with this new beast that is Bored Ape, I end up purchasing back at 85 ETH only a few months later. And the reality of actually pulling the trigger on something I could have bought at that price to now, I had to put that aside, right? I had to look at the bigger picture, and you can see that with anything. I'm not going to buy Ethereum at these prices because I could have bought it at $300. Well, you miss out on whatever happens next. So spending that much money on an NFT like a Bored Ape, the main reason was if we see this entire Web3 space pan out, I think networking with the biggest players in the space is going to be the big tool or the big asset. It's essentially how I look at a membership pass into Silicon Valley 2.0. And, it could be some other NFT, but to know what they've been able to do in that space, being, the premier blue chip project, I was more confident in buying that than spending that across multiple smaller projects.
So tell me about that then. So you have a Bored Ape, and you want to access the community. What is that? Do you get access to a Discord? Can you talk a little bit about, you have a Bored Ape, what's next?
Yeah, so it obviously gives you access to their Discord with ape holders, but then it also allows you to have numerous other conversations. So as soon as I got one, I announced it on Twitter. I had a bunch of Aussies hit me up as well. They were like, let's catch up, in Sydney or Melbourne. And a lot of these guys have been in the space for some time. They've got their own projects. And naturally, I'm building my own project for the next 6 months as well. So it just meant that it allowed me to have access to these guys who've already done it.
Yeah.
And I think that access part is what people don't understand, or don't value as much, a picture of an ape. But it's like, you don't get a gym membership and pick up a card for that much, right? You go for the gym access.
You're right. You're totally right there. I see you're kind of hitting that in a different perspective that I hadn't thought of. It's the access, but also it's the creativity and the excitement and it's the buzz that goes along with it. And you're all you've got these creative juices going and you're discussing things and you've got this, tight-knit little community. And can we go back a tiny bit when you're talking about the thought process around spending that money at the time and hodling and where you think it's going to go? And I'm kind of going through that again now with World of Women. So I'm actually asking you for some advice right now because I, again, saw that in a group that I was in pop up last year when it was announced and it came out, and someone who I really trust in the NFT space, and she'd been talking about NFTs for a while, and she said, check out this one, World of Women, think it's really going to go somewhere. The artist, she's amazing. And they were like 200, 400 at the time. And again, I just... you've got so much going on. You think, oh yeah, I should get one of those. It didn't happen. Big mistake. And now, Craig's got one. I want to go ahead and get one. But there's been a little bit of chatter about their price coming back down again. And you think, do I wait? Do I try and time the market? Or do I just go in there and grab one? Where are we at with NFTs right now? Because it did come off a bit. If you look at the sales on OpenSeas, I think. The last 2 weeks of March, they really pulled back again. I think that was timing with what was going on in the market. But how do you see the NFT landscape, say, in the last few months and where it's going in the next few months?
I'm so glad you brought up World of Women because that was the first NFT I bought. And
cool.
I actually bought it, I think, a few days after the mint. So I bought a couple at 0.2 ETH.
Which
sounds crazy at this point now.
Yeah.
And I had a big conviction play around World of Women because I thought, this is going to be the premier women-led project, right? And if we have Bored Apes take off to where they are, there's a 10x here sitting. So I ended up, at one point, I had 11 of these. And I say at one point because I sold a few. And it was always, take those profits. I was rotating. I was just learning in the space as well. So it was good. No regrets. But to your point around timing the market and knowing what's about to come, I think all the hype at the moment is the other side, which is Yuga Labs' project around the land metaverse, right? And people are like, well, do I wait for the land to drop and then buy? I feel like this has been the case every month with a new drop or an older project. It's always trying to time the market. And I'm now in that space where if I can afford to get into a big conviction play, I buy.
Yep.
And, you know, World of Women, I've been buying from 0.2 ETH all the way up to my most recent purchase, which was about 7 ETH. And I took some profits on some as well. So I think with what's happening in the space is it's maturing. And I think the market as a whole is not moving all together at once anymore. I think you've got a few blue chip NFTs that are taking off, and they probably don't have the 10x left in them, right? For Bored Apes to do a 10x, you've got to be at 1,000 ETH. Probably not going to happen, right? Might not happen.
But what comes with the Bored Ape though? You got the land, you got, you know, other airdrops,
Correct.
you got the Ape Coin airdrop that you got. There's other things that you can. It's high conviction play, right? You're not expecting
Correct.
a 10 if you just want to park some. Yeah, continue. Sorry.
And exactly with World of Women, right? Is they then gave you the airdrop for World of Women Galaxy. So there's always going to be things like that come up, and I'm in a position now where I value the blue chips where I'm trying to protect my wealth in NFTs, because we need to step out of it and go, hey, you know, I'm looking for the next 10x. Like 10x in anything, any asset ever is absolutely insane. So to be able to do that within 12 months or expect to do it in 12 months is absolutely crazy. So if I'm able to get into assets like Bored Apes, World of Women, and I can see them go back to their all-time high. For World of Women, all-time high was like, you know, 13, 14, 15 ETH. That's a 2x from here. And that's where I sort of go and take a step back, come into the traditional world and say, am I going to make this sort of money anywhere else? Probably not. And then I come back and say, well, what's the market been doing? It's been close to impossible to time this NFT bull run. You've seen projects like Boss Beauties that I've been a really big fan of. I got in at 0.15 pretty much. And I saw it right all the way up to 3 ETH, retrace on the back of good news, good partnerships, and it's now back at like 1.14. So it's very difficult to time, and there's different projects that take off at different times.
I think the space has matured quite quickly. I think when we first got into it, it was all about the pretty pictures on your display picture. You know, similar to you, I had a Degen Ape, sold it, bought back in at like 10x of what I bought it before. But like, it's crazy. You guys probably have the same situation. I've been telling my dad, you know, crypto's the thing, get some crypto. All of a sudden he sees these apes. He's like, I need an ape. He's like, I need one of these things with a Twinkie in their mouth. It's like, so I think it's like it's another way of onboarding as well. But also, like you said, Ravi, the blue chips like the Yuga Labs, people are looking into like who is behind these NFTs. What are they like? What's their plan? And we, you know, I saw the Yuga Labs pitch deck was released, and it's pretty staggering numbers that they're putting up. The revenue they're making is like using Bored Apes as essentially capital raising for Yuga Labs. You know, Pudgy Penguins just got bought out by a similar group to Yuga Labs. World of Women are like, you know, I'm going to get a Pudgy Penguin after this after this call. But I know also, like, you know, World of Women Galaxy, Mutant Apes. Where do you see these sort of secondary projects? Because I've got a World of Women Galaxy because I was priced out of the World of Women. Do you think that, you know, for these blue chips, are they just going to keep releasing new collections at more of a supply, cheaper for people like you and me to get involved? Well, people like me, I should say, because you already have a Bored Ape. People that can actually get involved with that, you know, I think there's the Kennel Club as well. Like, where do you see these blue chips with the secondary projects that come out?
The best way to sort of think about it is at the moment we're going, oh my God, it's a supply of 10,000 or it's a supply of 20,000. Who's going to buy that? That's too high. It's too high for now because there's less than 1% of the entire world population in NFTs right now. So when you start thinking about this at scale, how many people can actually afford even a World of Women Galaxy, which is meant to be affordable, is now sitting at 1.1 ETH, which is like over 5,000 Australian dollars, right? So if you're wanting to get into these communities, it's already so expensive. So what I see happening is over the long run, we're going to see NFT collections with 50,000, 60,000, 100,000. And they may not be a play around, oh, well, you're collecting these for price appreciation. It might just be that sense of community. And the reality is, something that I don't see enough being spoken about is, when you pass, your late 20s, early 30s, you realize it's quite hard to make friends. People have different interests, different things that they're interested in.
This is
community.
yeah.
NFTs bringing those people together. So you're suddenly going, hey, you know what? Like, I don't mind paying a membership. That's exactly why they pay memberships to golf courses and golf clubs, around the world, because they want to feel like they belong to something.
This is very.
That's a mic drop right there.
Saying. Yeah, that is. It's just so true.
So
what
do you
you're saying
think
right now?
Do you think it comes to a stage where OpenSea uses 10x? As a result of that, we'd be looking at projects that have 40,000 supply and thinking that's small because it's scaling up. Do you think we'll get to that level where Bored Apes will they'll bring out whatever it is, 40,000 supply, and then they're going to be cheap, and then they're going to be the new the new quick movers? Like, is that how you see the space going, like as a scale?
Yeah, definitely. Like, think about Bored Apes brought out Mutant Apes, right? And with Mutant Apes, everyone was like, I don't like the artwork. It's not minimal. I'm never going to put this as my PFP. It was sitting there at like 3, 4, 5 ETH for a long time. But as soon as we started seeing appreciation on base, they were like, well, what's the next best thing? How do I get access to the same community? And they realized that, hey, I'm okay having 80% of the utility and access at a lower price. I'll take that. And that's why we've seen, prices for Mutant Apes now to a point where it was supposed to be cheap. It was meant to be affordable. And now to get into that, it's costing $150,000 Australian. So I think we're going to get to a point where it's just a tiered system. And just like with anything in real life as well, if you want to go to a sporting stadium, you can still attend. You'll just get a general admission pass. You can't get a box seat. You can't get courtside. And I think that's how we're going to sort of see this play out, I think.
That's a really good example, eh? Like, especially with the golf memberships, like you can get the top tier, free food, free beer, golf whenever you want, or you can just play golf every now and again, or you can just play golf whenever you want. It's the same thing. You're still playing golf, but your experience is obviously tiered. But that's a good point, though. It's like, seriously.
Yeah, it is. But I want to know, Ravi, what you are bullish. You're always bullish. He's always bullish. Ravi, what do you think about the metaverse and the NFT space here and how that all interacts? And do you see us pushing more into the land space? And, like you said, you've touched on it there because, World of Women have gone that way with the land component, as have the Bored Ape. So do you see a lot more of a crossover, and how do you think that'll work?
Yeah, it's interesting because at the moment, it's like you're buying space in land that's not scarce because anyone can just create their own metaverse. So I think a lot of this, we're probably going to see some sort of hyperbolic run in terms of land and metaverse, because people don't really understand that it doesn't matter where you actually have your plot of land because it's instant. If you're comparing that to, say, Sydney property market, you buy in Point Piper, you're going to pay $30 million because you get to see this view. Now, if you want access to certain nightclubs, you want certain bars and restaurants, well, they're probably going to be around you in that space. Whereas with land and in the metaverse, I think it's very different. We're sitting in 3 different locations right now. We're having a conversation instantly. So I think that part is going to play out, and I'd be very careful around buying heaps of land in blue chip areas. I'm probably more on the space, or in the mindset that it's going to be super interesting when we see tokenization of real estate in Australia. I think that's coming. And I think that is going to make a lot more sense because, that I can go, there's only so much of that land. Whereas with this, well, what stops them from creating more land? And, it can continue on forever.
Well, I feel like that's a rabbit hole. We should probably do another episode on NFT property.
Yeah. You know what?
That's a rabbit hole, big time.
Do you think that they will do more meetups as well? I know that we had the Bored Ape Yacht Club boat party, didn't they? But do you think you'll see more meetups in the NFT space? I mean, in New York late last year, they had the big in real life meetup in New York where everyone from the scene came together. I don't think we haven't done a lot of that here in Australia yet, but do you think there'll be more I know that we're all moving to this metaverse, Ready Player One online thing, which I hate. But do you think there'll be more, in real life meetups that they're bringing people together with through NFTs?
Yeah, for sure. You're already seeing it with, NFT NYC was like the first sort of thing for it. You had Ape Fest. Now you've got World of Women. They're holding World of Women, WoW Gala. Boss Beauties are going to have their own conference. VCon's happening with Gary Vee. And even in Australia, I think there's a lot of offline sort of conversation around that at the moment. I think it's going to naturally go towards that, where some people like to meet in real life. I'm probably a bit more introverted, and I'd love to just sit at home in my PJs and talk to everyone with my black T-shirt on. But I know that people enjoy the human interaction, face-to-face sort of touch and feel thing. So I definitely think NFTs could be like a step backwards, go into more online, and then that's going to allow us to come back out, and we probably have a few more interactions in person.
Yeah.
That's a good point. So I guess, we've been talking for a while. Really want to understand, I know you've got some videos around your criteria for looking for an NFT space. Not financial advice, of course, but what are some of the things, people that are listening, they want to get involved. What should they look for? What are the red flags? What would you suggest to someone that's just getting started right now, just like we were back in the day?
Yeah. I think the number one thing is you're betting on people. So take your hat on from Shark Tank and think you are a VC and you're investing in a startup, because that's what you are. And your NFT is funding their startup. They're coming in with a promise, a roadmap, which is a business plan, really. And so you're going in and saying, I'm going to throw money at this picture of an ape. Well, it's a smart contract. So they could change the ape. It could change the image, or they can upgrade the image later. But it's the utility behind it, the access, and the founders that I think are going to be the big play. I've seen plenty, and I've been wrecked as well, where I jumped into something because there was a bit of FOMO and hype for a quick flip. Turns out, who's left holding the bag? They're going to end up with an NFT that goes down to pretty much zero. Versus, if you trust in people, you're probably going to have a higher conviction to actually hold. Something like, Boss Beauties, so much utility, have partnerships with Hugo Boss, Barbie, UN. Like, there's so much happening in that space behind Lisa. Yet people are in there going, I just want a quick flip. So they've come out of the project. People are thinking, how do I make as much money in 1 month? I'm thinking, how do I stay in the community and build with these people over the next 10 years?
Wow.
That's a really good piece of advice.
That is a really good piece of advice that you've got there. So, Ravi, how can people follow you? What channels can they get some more alpha from you then, Ravi? Craig, can you tell people what's the best way, or Ravi, share with us how they can follow you? Where can they find you?
Yeah, I think on YouTube, if you just type in my name, Ravi Sharma, there should be a bunch of videos that come up, not just about real estate, but about NFTs, Metaverse, as well as crypto and mindset. I think people are jumping in, watching a few influencers and saying, I can make quick money. But I think we've got to start with the basics of getting the right mindset. If you've never invested before, the difference between investing and gambling is a very fine line. And I think with NFTs, it's really coming to the forefront, which is why so many people get wrecked. But yeah, I would say YouTube's probably my main source of information for people. And then if they want more than that, there's Patreon and things like that as well.
Well, I think,
awesome.
I've loved chatting with you, because I think you've just given us a whole heap of alpha there, but also empowering us all to become our own VCs and checking out, what we're getting involved in before we do that. So I, for one, would love to, chat with you again and pick your brain on a few things and find out what else is going on in the space. So
I think the next chat should be about NFT houses, because I think that's a rabbit hole we can get into.
Look, we haven't even spoken about real estate on the metaverse and where that's going, because that is going in a whole different direction. I'm sure you're probably all up with that as well.
Not only that, but I was watching my little cousins and they were playing games, Roadblocks and things like that. And these are the same companies that are signing big crypto gaming sort of contracts. So I'm going, I think everyone knows where this is headed. Well, the people in the space know where it's headed, and it's very exciting. I've had a good time with chatting with you guys.
Yeah, it's been awesome,
man. Well, thanks so much. We'll wrap it up there. And
again, yes, thanks so much for your time, Ravi, and we'll definitely have you back one day.
Okay, thanks, guys.
I think we'll probably leave
Hold
it
on,
there.
we'll
But
stop
yeah,
this.
let's stop that. Yeah, but that was awesome.